Good evening and welcome to the finale of 13 Horror Nights. It's episode 13, Halloween Night, and tonight's movie is Halloween. 1 year ago today, I watched John Carpenter's Halloween, and I thought it was okay. And I kind of thought I had run out of horror movies that take place on Halloween that I really cared to see. But just last year, there was technically a sequel to Halloween made. Now, so much has been done to Halloween. There's been sequels, the remake by Rob Zombie, but this one is kind of special. It is like a sequel, but in an alternate universe. I remember in the original movie, he definitely got away, but in this one, he got caught and was sent to like an insane asylum, and he spent 40 years biding his time, waiting to escape, and one Halloween, he does. And it also brings back Jamie Lee Curtis, and she is ready for him this time. This seems to be like the final showdown between Michael Myers and Jamie Lee Curtis's character. Considering that this is a sequel/remake of a horror movie and that it got positive reviews, I'm gonna guess that this is pretty good because John Carpenter's Halloween was like heralded as the like perfect slasher movie. And it's certainly one of the better ones I ever saw. I'm not really a fan of slasher movies anyway, but whenever people tried to do anything to it, people hated it. A lot of people really hated the Rob Zombie remake and a lot of the other sequels, but this was received positively, and John Carpenter apparently was the executive producer, so I'm guessing he had some say in it. I'm interested to see how this goes. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I guess I'll just find out. Alright, that was Halloween, though if they were going to subtitle it, I probably would have called it Halloween Not Even Remotely Messing Around, because that is the vibe I get from a lot of this. Unfortunately, that does not hold up throughout the entire movie, but that's for later. I'm giving this movie a 7 out of 10, which is actually the same score that I gave the original Halloween. One thing that this movie actually really does examine and sort of look into that I enjoy is that it, like with all horror movies and all movies in general, there's a point where it ends and things just over. It's like, yes, Laurie got through the night. It was bad, but she made it out alive. Obviously, this is a very traumatic, scarring thing to happen to somebody. And I'm sure that some people would use that as a way to have a new lease on life and just live happier, but there are a good portion of people where it would absolutely mess them up psychologically, and clearly that is what happened with Laurie. She spent the rest of her life preparing for Michael to come back or another murderer to come into the house. She did that to her kid. She made her daughter learn how to shoot a gun at age 8, I think it was, and in self-defense, and she rigged up her entire house to be a trap for Michael Myers. Her entire life was so fixated on this thing happening that she ended up driving everybody else away. She lost custody of her daughter. She became estranged from her family. She barely knows her granddaughter, and it's a lot it kind of reminds me of the thing in 10 Cloverfield Lane where I said it's weird because this justifies a lot of the complexes that these people have formed, and when Michael Myers escapes, she takes charge, and that's not framed as a totally good thing. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the characters in Halloween. I really did I believe her name was Allison, who was the granddaughter. She was really good. I liked her performance, and I also liked a lot of the dialogue in this movie. There were a couple very forced moments of comedy, but there were a couple genuinely funny or charming moments. One of Allison's friends babysat a kid, and their dialogue was just really funny. I liked that a lot. But when it comes to the horror aspect, I'd say that the original one has this movie beat when it comes to the way that it's paced with the just the way that it's done and the editing. I said this in my video, the climax to Halloween is spectacular. One of probably the best slasher scene I've ever seen in my life. And it doesn't really pick up in this movie until the very end, which is a lot like it was in the original Halloween, but the original Halloween movie had brevity. It was 90 minutes. This movie stretches things out a little bit more, and I don't think that's entirely a good thing, because I realize the problem with slashers is that you're just waiting for the next kill, and a lot of the things just feel like filler, and that is what it felt like a little bit. Like, once you got, like, past halfway through the second act, things started to seem like it was biding its time, or let me rephrase that, padding things out until we got to the final part of the movie. In the meantime, we did get some clever scares, clever setups, but a lot of it was... Okay, I should have talked about this from the beginning. This movie really, really, really wants to remind everybody just how faithful it is to the original Halloween. It started out with the exact same type of title card in the exact same color with the exact same font as the original Halloween. It has its own spin on the Halloween theme, which is like literally the exact same song, but like with one note removed. But a lot of the other music in this movie is really good. There was this one point in the middle of the movie where I believe it was when Allison was made aware that Michael Myers was on the loose, and the music that played there was really, really good. It was like this rock sound. It almost made me think of In the House in a Heartbeat, I believe it's called, from 28 Days Later. That was really good foreboding electric guitar type of sound. I feel like a lot of this movie was just like paying lip service to the original movie without doing much else. They Cop from the first movie comes back. A few of the other characters, actually no, I think it's just the cop, Jamie Lee Curtis's character Laurie, and Michael Myers. I'm sure they got the same actor. You saw Michael Myers' face briefly for like a second in the original movie, and I don't think you ever actually get a good look at his face at any point in this movie, but actually I'll save that for the spoiler section. Anyway, this movie is in a lot of ways just a bit of a rehash of the original one, with the added benefit of this being later and Laurie being more prepared for what's happening. I feel like if you like the original movie a lot, this might be good, but considering that I didn't love the original movie, I didn't really love this one either. I don't really have that much to say because honestly, the plot of this movie is pretty standard. Like, if you watch the trailer, you pretty much know what's going to happen. I'd say that Jamie Lee Curtis does deliver a pretty compelling performance. I always thought she was a pretty good actress. Judy Greer, I really liked her performance, and I really liked the performance of the granddaughter, who's played by Andi Matichak. I probably butchered that name, and I'm sorry. They all did very good jobs as showing like different levels of how this is affecting a person. You got Jamie Lee Curtis, who is absolutely just fixated on this, monomaniacal about this one specific thing. And then you got the daughter, who is just completely over it. She doesn't want to think about it. She doesn't want to talk about it. She basically cut the mother out of her life because it was not a very good childhood that she had, living in constant fear of being murdered. And then you have the granddaughter, who is just trying to live her life. And I do like a lot of the dialogue between the teenagers in this movie. It was done very well. A lot of it is very funny. There were a few funny characters, but that part was definitely stronger than it was in the original. But I feel like one of the charms about the original Halloween movie is that it was simple, and then it knew that it was simple. In this one, it tries to be more, while also trying to be a lot like the original movie, and I don't know if that meshed very well. But I will say this, the climax of the movie, just like the climax of this movie, just like the climax of the original Halloween, made it worth it. Like, even though there were some problems along the way, I would say that this movie was like a thumbs up at the end because of that climax, because they pulled it all together. But I can't really go into detail about that without going into spoilers. So before I do, for anybody who actually wants to watch this movie and is going to leave, thank you so much for watching 13 Horror Nights. I had a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun doing this every year. Happy Halloween. Be safe out there. All right, now let's talk about the spoilers. There were a lot of scenes that definitely made me think, okay, this was talking about this happening in the original movie. And there were a lot of, also, like, I said in the first part that if you watch the trailer, you know what's going to happen, but they spoil a lot of pretty good scares in the trailer. One thing that they showed was, like, the kid saying to his babysitter, can you close the closet? And then she tries, but it won't close. And then she opens it, and then Michael Myers is in the closet. And that would have been something really good to see. But, the climax of this movie, I'm not going to go into too many details about the plot because I pad out these things too much anyway, but basically just ends up with all three of the women and Michael Myers in Laurie's house. And it turns out she, like, set up booby traps. She set up, like, partitions to close off rooms. There are a bunch of guns. And it ends with all of them in the house trying to kill Michael Myers. And I really think what they were trying to go for was just that Michael is a person who has absolutely no conscience, no feelings, doesn't know how to do anything except for kill, and we're not supposed to feel sorry for him because there's no humanity at all in him. That's what they were going for. But honestly, like, they seem to be going for like a Jason Voorhees type of thing where, like, you can't kill him because either he is very good at ignoring pain or he is just supernaturally, like, invincible almost, because actually, this was something I almost said in the original one. He gets his fingers blown off with a shotgun and you hear him make just the lightest of a sound. Just like like that sound, and that's it. That, I feel like that was the equivalent of the mask coming off in the first Halloween. Like, that really big, surprising, no one was expecting that moment in this movie. But things keep going, and I really do love the way that this movie ends up, because there was, like, this basement that's underneath, like, a little, like, island in the middle of the kitchen. Like, you press a button, it twists, and he figured it out, and he was trying to move it. And it was the mother and the granddaughter in the basement, and the mother is, like, crying and saying, "Mom, please help us. I can't do it. I can't shoot someone." And then when Michael appears, like, she instantly stops crying, says, "Gotcha," and shoots him. Now that was a really, really cool moment. And then Jamie Lee Curtis barrels in and starts stabbing him over and over. He falls down the stairs. The rest of them go up. Of course, like, why do people slip so much in... Like, people slip more, like, 10 times more in slasher movies than they do in real life. It's ridiculous. But she slips, and then Michael Myers grabs her leg, but then the granddaughter grabs a knife and, like, stabs him until he lets go. And then the most amazing thing ever happens, which is, like, pressing a special button, metal spikes come out through the wood that was, like, separating the basement from the kitchen. And then she, like, presses a button and, like, gas starts, like propane or ethane or something starts getting released into the room. And she lights a flare, says goodbye, Michael, drops it into the basement. And literally the entire house was set to burn itself to the ground at the press of a button. All just to kill Michael Myers on the offhand chance he shows up and somehow ends up in the basement. That is so stupid and awesome at the same time. Like, it's so awesome it's stupid, and so stupid it's awesome. Like, I feel like that was just, like, the movie realized, yeah, this whole thing is kind of ridiculous, but you know what? We are going to have so much fun with it, and I agree. I like the original. The climax in this movie kind of made the whole thing worth it. All right, that has been 13 Horror Nights. I had a lot of fun. I saw a couple of pretty good movies, and I enjoy doing this every year. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Halloween, everybody.